Neutral spine in standing is important for us in general when we want to find out where our spine should be in space. I'll just try and move this so you can see my lower half a little bit better. So your natural curve of your spine sits like the spine here. You should have your upper neck which curves inwards. You should have an outward curve of your thoracic spine, which is where your ribs attach, and a slight inward curve so it feels that lazy S shape. Your sacrum obviously sits on a slight angle again. Lumbar spine attaches to sacrum, sacrum attaches to your pelvis. If you pop your hands on your hips, that's literally the bit that you're popping your hands on. So as I stand with my hands on my hips, it's as if I'm standing with my hands on these bones here. So when we're lying down, we talked about your spine being the two hip bones that you feel at the front and your pubic bone here. In standing, it's exactly the same. We're looking for the two bony landmarks at the front. So if you pop your hands on your hips, you'll find at the front of your hips you've got the two bony bits. So we don't want to be on the top, we want the two bony bits at the front. And if you pop your fingers sort of where your pubic bone is here, you have that triangle that sits. So what we're looking for is the front of your hip bone. If I turn that side on, you'll see there. And we're looking for your pubic bone down here. Relatively, excuse my tickle, relatively when you're in neutral spine standing, we're looking for those bony points being vertical. Okay, so if you've got your heel of your hands on your two bony prominences at the front of your pelvis where your hands are, and your pubic bone here, you want them to be relatively vertical and in a flush line. Now, if I stand side on here, you can see that relatively I've got a little bit of a curve in my lower back. If I'm standing and I'm tucked underneath, relatively I'm flexed and my pubic bone here sits in front of my hip bone. So if I go the other way, my hip bone sits in front of my pubic bone. So this is anterior tilt, and I've not worn a very good top today. If I've got a hinge in my spine and I'm in that anterior tilt, or if I tuck underneath and I've got that curve backwards in my spine, I'm in a posterior tilt, the loading through my spine is either that way or that way. So I'm either overstretching all my joints at the back when I tilt backwards, or I overstretch and compress into extension. So it's quite important when we're doing things that we know where we are in neutral. So neutral good posture is here. My pelvis is in alignment, my spine should be in that lazy S shape, and if I'm in a poor posture where I'm tilted, it means that I'm not loading my spine very well and I'm putting pressure on, or if I'm loading it that way, again, I'm putting a lot of compression on there. So in terms of where to find neutral, that's how you find it. Pubic bone, anterior crests of your pelvis, so the sticky out bony bits on your hips and the sticky out bony bit just between your legs on your pubic bone, you want those parallel to the wall or as good as. And that's probably a good way to go. If you're not sure where your pelvis is and how it moves, you can definitely use your thumbs to tilt it backwards and use your fingers to guide you forwards, and we're looking at how much movement a normal style of pelvis has. For you, you might find you move much better one way, you might find it's a little bit harder. But in terms of optimal loading through the spine, that's what we're looking at for neutral. In things like your Pilates, this is what we're looking at for when you start your roll downs as well. And if you can find your neutral spine in standing, it means that things like your lunges, if we start working into things like lunges and we ask you to find neutral spine, you're looking at that triangle, again being flush so it doesn't dip downwards or it doesn't dip backwards. Okay, so neutral spine in standing, very important if you want to optimally load your spine, very important if you're doing things like loading it through weights, that you don't start tilting and curling or extending, that you're getting good pressure coming through the spine. So we'll go through neutral spine in prone lying as well this week, and neutral spine in quadruped. All right, see you soon.